A new flavor for your ear. Epic Spotlight. Putting the spotlight on positive goings on the real people that have chosen a real path. The who's, the whys, and the hows are being shared.
And we're back. And we got another one. But before we get going, we got to take care of some housekeeping notes. Today's episode is sponsored by Epic Mortgage. Whether you're buying, refinancing, or investing, call Epic today. That's 708-905-5300. That's 708-905-5300. It's your dreams, your goals. Let's plan together. Now on with the show. Today we have Kent Nichols. He is the treasurer and the CFO of the Lake Region Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, an organization that has been active since January 1945, with its offices based in Indianapolis, Indiana. With over 70 years of dedication to mission and ministry, the Lake Region Conference has significantly transformed and uplifted individuals and communities. In his role, Kent oversees financial operations and ensures that the conference adheres to rigorous professional accounting standards, regularly reviewing practices to maintain transparency and efficiency. He emphasizes the importance of treating donated funds as a sacred trust and is committed to promoting accountability, integrity, and responsibility in all financial dealings. Under his stewardship, the department strives to honor and glorify God through the careful management of funds allocated for various programs and services offered to the community. Welcome, Kent.
Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for coming on. So let's get into it. Can you share just a bit about your background and what really got you paired with Lake Region conferences?
So basically, I moved up here back in 1999 and just came as my first or my second job out of college. I got with a company that was doing consulting work, and they were putting in financial accounting software. One of it was called Oracle. SAP and Oracle are the top financial accounting softwares. And so they hired me to come in as a consultant. And so I kind of moved up to the Chicago area. And so one of the churches that I eventually would join will be a church in the Lake Region Conference. It was a church in Burridge, Illinois. And I would eventually attend. I would eventually become a member there. Eventually became an elder. And what's interesting is the pastor that was the pastor of that church eventually will become a colleague of mine and a friend. And 20 plus years later, he always saw something in me to eventually become a pastor. And so he wanted me to, consider that. He prayed for me. And as things worked out, I eventually would become a pastor later in life. Went back to school in my late 40s. Eventually went back to school and got my master's in pastoral ministry. Eventually became a pastor. And, for 20 plus years of my life, I had done, financial accounting and implementations, and got into business dealing with mortgages and financial services and insurance. And so they knew my resume was packed with that. And an opportunity came where they needed a treasurer, and they felt like I was a good fit because I had a pastoral background because I was pastoring at the time, but I also had a financial background in accounting, and I was a controller for a small village in outside of Chicago, where I was the controller and, taking care of the city's finances. So they thought it would be a good mesh for me to become the treasurer and the CFO for the organization.
Oh, wow. It's funny how everything comes full circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some of your key financial responsibilities just being the treasurer?
So I have a team of about 5 people that I manage. And basically one of my main responsibilities is to make sure that we safeguard all the funds that come into our organization. So for example, everybody has a revenue source when it comes to even nonprofit organizations. Either that's through donations, either that's through different things that the organization does that people provide resources for. In our situation, people give a portion of their income, what we call as tithes. And so that tithe actually comes into the local conference office from all of our churches. We have about 120 churches, and we're growing. We probably add 3 to 5 churches every year, especially in our multilingual division. We have a multilingual division where we have Hispanic, Guyanan, Haitian, and we have a lot of different, churches that are coming in, Korean, that are coming into our organization. And so those churches grow. And then you have people who work and they provide donations to the church so that we hire the number one resource of our organization, which is pastors. So that what happens is that those funds come in, and I'm accountable for that. I have a person who takes those funds in. We deposit those funds. We account for those funds. And then eventually those funds are passed back to our pastors in what we call payroll, benefits. And then eventually we also have people that support that. So there's a support staff that does all the work that we do, like the treasury team, the president's office, the secretariat office, where it deals with our real estate. Because, think about it. We also have a lot of real estate because we have a whole bunch of churches and we have buildings and schools. We have about 4 major schools that are in our conference. And so I safeguard those funds, make sure they're accounted for, make sure the bills get paid, people are paid, make sure our benefits are paid, make sure our insurance is covered, make sure that if there's any need for programs. So one of the things that we do is we have different directors for different departments in our organization. Some do prison ministry. So they're dealing with how to reach people in the prison system, how to deal with women's ministry, how to affect communities and people who are dealing with women's issues and men's issues. And so we have all these different ministries that we provide support, financial support for, so they can go out into the communities and make a difference. So yeah, my primary responsibility is to safeguard the funds, make sure the funds get allocated and distributed the way that they're supposed to be, and make sure that we can do ministry in the communities that we serve with our churches.
That's great. What are some of the challenges that you have with just managing those types of funds? I mean, obviously, such a huge organization.
One of the challenges is making sure that we can stick to budget. So one of the things that I'm being tasked with now is making sure we have a budget that's accurate, to make sure that the money is spent on the things that we budget for, and just also kind of the forecast, right? Right now, we're kind of in a very interesting year. We don't know how people's jobs are going to be affected with how the economy is running right now with a new president, some of the things that are happening in America federally. So we don't know if we're going to have the same type of resources we had last year. So one of the challenges is, will we have the same type of income that's going to come in through some of our workers and some of our donors because of how they're being affected economically? And so, for example, I'll give a perfect example. We had a church that I was going to go. One of the things I also do, because I work, but I'm also a pastor. So a lot of times I get asked to go and I'll be there to install a new pastor for a new church. And so we were going to go install a new pastor at a church in Indianapolis, and it was a Haitian church. And when the mandate came out that they would go, ICE would come out and come after people, even at churches or schools, we couldn't do the installation because the church would not meet, because they were concerned about whether or not they would be taken captive by somebody that would come and try to take them, and somebody that they love. So these things affect our people and affect the people that give donations to the work that we do to do ministry.
I mean, just what would be a percentage of donations? Is there an expectation that you guys see just within the organization?
So normally, honestly speaking, what kind of the idea is, what kind of the Bible teaches is that you give a tenth of your income toward a tithe, and then we also recognize that at the local church level, you have to also support the local church. So most people are given anywhere between 15%, 20% of their income to support the ministry they want to do at the local level and also at the conference level. The beautiful thing about what we do as an organization is not only do we get tithe of 10%, and don't get me wrong, we don't probably get everyone. This is a volunteer thing, so probably everybody's not doing it. But if we had everybody doing it, we probably have a lot more donations. But we probably get about, I'm guessing maybe 40% of our constituents probably donate faithfully. But even the money that we get, we tithe up to the next level of our organization. So in our organization, we have a union, and we tithe up to that union. Then the union ties up to the general conference, and we tithe up to the general conference. And we have a worldwide organization. So basically, we have churches in all major countries. We have churches all over the world. And basically, give a perfect example, like every 13th weekend or Sabbath, we call it, we give donations toward a worldwide ministry. I happened to get an opportunity to go to Peru in January to build a church and also help build a parsonage. Well, some of those funds that were donated up to the worldwide organization were the very funds that paid for these pastors and these schools and for these churches that I was building as a missionary. So we have a worldwide work. We have over, almost 30 million members. And we just do a work that we believe is important to share the good news about the hope of a coming Savior.
That's awesome. What advice would you give to local churches or ministries on financial stewardship?
I think one of the things that I would tell local churches is just, be faithful when it comes to the things that you do. Be consistent. Set up a plan of how you're going to use your finances. I think you even talk about that even on your program, setting up a budget. You should do the same thing at your local church level. You should do the same thing at a personal level, and then hold yourself accountable to those budgets, and then reward yourself when you're faithful to that budget, whatever that may be. So, and then always, even like us, even though we get donations from other constituents and different members of our church, we also give back. And so a part of being a good steward is not just holding on to the funds, but also sharing a portion of those funds to give back to your community. So even me personally, when I save my money, not only do I give to the organization that I believe in, but I also put money aside that I can help other people who are less fortunate. And so we try to practice that in everything we do at the local level, at the personal level, and at the worldwide level.
And how do you guys determine, what programs that your ministry is going to focus on for the budget? Like, is it a voting system? Is it democracy, or democratic vote, or how do you
So
disseminate?
what we do is what we'll do is we'll actually have different directors over certain areas. So we have like a director over community service. And what we do is we try to give a budget of, hey, here's certain funds that we're going to give you, and we're going to give you these funds and use your type of inspiration or whatever you believe is best to try to bless these communities within our region. So we serve 5 states. We serve all the way from Minnesota to Michigan, and we serve 5 states that we do these type of works in our churches and in our communities. What can you do to train pastors, train members to do community service? And the beautiful thing is that we have many people who are at the local level, like many of our pastors. They're very involved in like the community. So for example, they'll get grants. So for example, we even wrote for a grant. We got a $1.5 million grant that we're actually giving money to our churches to come in and work with their communities to bless them with either food or initiatives that bless their community to help people that are hurting. So there's different ways that we do it, but that particular director of community service would coordinate with her budget, and she would work with pastors and different leaders from different churches to do things that will be a ministry. So we don't really dictate it. We just kind of give the funds and say, hey, be inspired and show us what you can do with the funds that you have.
Now, from your department or just through the leaders, how do you advocate for financial literacy? Because obviously that's going to be so important when you speak on budget and speak on some of the missions, especially to continue with tithes. How do you guys go about that?
So one of the things that, and I haven't broadcasted this yet, but I'm actually writing a book on actually financial literacy, the 101s of Christian investing or investing. And I'm working with another pastor who was really big into the stockbrokering and the market and investing. And so we're combining together to write a book. And we're actually going to put together a curriculum to teach our church and constituents how to actually invest, how to budget, how to plan for retirement. Because believe it or not, a lot of times, we think the basics are understood, but unless you're in this vein of understanding or you're around this type of information, some people don't have it. And so even in our community, so one of the things about that wasn't mentioned when you were giving the introduction, we are mostly an African American regional conference. So the reason that we're a regional conference is we have different conferences in all different states, but we're a regional conference because during civil rights time, it wasn't easy for most African Americans to be able to attend certain churches without having an issue. And so we created this regional conference, and this regional conference is mostly Black, but now it's every color. Now we have people from all over, nations and multilingual and everything. But the beautiful thing that I love about it is that we have our own retirement system. So basically we created our own retirement system so that amongst all of our regional conferences, all of our workers can retire with a pension, can retire with, a living that's sustainable. And we do these things because we want to make a difference for our people. So one of the things that we're trying to do is do what we practice ourselves. If we're going to tell people about financial literacy and being self-sustaining, we got to be able to do it ourselves. And so that's one of the goals that I'm trying to do is teach by creating a book, maybe creating a curriculum, and then making that available to our constituents so they can learn about financial literacy.
Writing a book. I know about that. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But, it's okay if you do it in bits, if you try to write it in one day, it ain't gonna happen. But,
No.
We do a little bit at a time. And, we've been working on it for a few months now. So we're hoping to be done maybe by the end of this year, and then we'll be ready to get it published.
Awesome. No, that's great. And as we wrap up, just what is your vision of the financial future of Lake Region conferences? What are you hopeful that you guys can do in the next, let's say 5 to 10 years?
One of the things that I would like to accomplish, if it's, God blesses me to be able to do it, and with the right team, is to really put together an endowment fund. I would like to actually create an endowment fund that allows anyone who wants to get a Christian education to be able to get it for free, so that anybody that goes to any one of our schools or anyone that's in our vicinity or any child that's out there in our communities that wants to have a ability to actually have an education, they don't have to come out of pocket, that they can actually tap into our endowment fund and get a scholarship to go to any one of our schools in the area. The other goal I have is I've been put together a grant team that actually writes grants. We've gotten almost close to $2 million in grants since we started this project. And my goal is to get to the point where we've got millions of dollars coming in every year that we're doing we're using those funds to be a blessing to our communities and to really get out there and help people that are hurting out there. So I'd like to continue to grow that project and make it to a viable project that's being used every year. And then the other thing is, as a CFO, really trying to really grow our trust and our trust department and giving department, plan giving. because there's a lot of people that actually, if, like you said, if they had financial literacy and they knew how to take care of their finances and bless their families when they pass and leave a legacy, they would also give to the church. Well, if we're able to do that, then they will be willing to have a planned giving account that they could give something when they pass to the church, and that would bless our communities and our churches and our locales. So that's my vision. I'm planning on hoping to work on that in the next few years and see what God will do.
Well, Ken, thank you so much for joining us today. That was great information. I even learned a little bit more just about your organization, what you guys are looking to do, and have an epic day.
You have an epic day too, man. God bless you.
All right, take care.
Chosen the path. The who's, the why,